welcome our friend from Good Morning Football back on the show, and he's back with 10 questions with Kyle Brandt. We're on the Ringer and Spotify. That's where his podcast can be gotten. How are you, Kyle Brandt?
I'm good, and I'm intrigued, Rich, by what I just heard regarding Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP of the league, in the middle of the season, saying he's going under center. And am I correct in saying he told you defenses are calling out what play the Ravens are going to run?
Kyle, I asked him, my first question was it looks like things are coming tougher this year. It's not as easy as last year looked. What would you say to that? And he basically said part of his answer was the defense is calling a lot of our plays out before the snap. And I said, what do you mean? And he basically said, run, pass. He's, and as you know, there's no fans in the stands, so it's much easier to communicate where, in certain places there are some fans, but not the same amount. That was one of those moments as an interviewer, did I kind of catch that one?
I'm having that moment as a guest. I'm like, did the host just say that he asked a prior guest and that's what they said? Rich, that's a big bite, especially since, as you know, the Ravens are national this week. Of all the teams to play against when you think they might know what you're running, they're playing the New England Patriots. So I'm staggered by that bite.
Yeah, that's what he said earlier today. But it, also said that Dez is already a leader on the team. That was of interest to hear. Is that he's already chiming in, and he also confirmed what John Harbaugh had mentioned earlier today. It looks like Ingram's going to be back. So. What do you think of the Ravens here? That's kind of the AFC team that we're not really once the Steelers beat them, we've kind of put to the wayside a little bit, thinking this is the Chiefs and Steelers world, and we're now focused on the Thursday night game first up with the Colts and the Titans. What do you think of the Steelers the Ravens so far?
I think you brought it up perfectly. They need some energy. They need a little bit of the moxie, of the party, of the swagger. They're a very good team. They're one of the other guys, though. The word elite is not getting attached to Baltimore Ravens right now and that's welcome to the new reality. Ravens fans want to complain, you give us no credit, I'm giving you a compliment. I'm saying that great things are expected of the Baltimore Ravens, Super Bowl things. So 6-2 for a lot of teams, you're having Mardi Gras. But when you lose to Pittsburgh and you lose again to Kansas City, and you just sort of feel like a little flat, and I think there's a reason that Mark Ingram has been out. He's the energizer. And Dez Bryant is instant energy, and the fact that they need that is a little alarming. If I'm one of those other guys in the wide receiver room, of which they are not massive names, I would say, why are you bringing in Dez Bryant? We're not doing enough. You're going to bring a guy who hasn't played in a couple of years, who his best football is allegedly behind him? I would be motivated by that. So if they have a point where their energy is a little flat and they're getting back their guy in Ingram and they're getting Dez Bryant, who I don't know if he can catch a ball or not, but I know he brings passion, it's time to go. We are not early. We are in the back half, as you know, Rich. And if the Ravens are going to take a run at this thing, it's time to start playing good ball.
I agree with you. Where do you stand on the NFC now that the Saints boat raced the Bucs? Seattle got smoked by Buffalo. We did see Tua go toe-to-toe with Kyler Murray. Green Bay did start the week with a win, but it was against a San Francisco B or C team. What are your thoughts right now on the NFC going into the back half of the season?
Well, Saints-Bucs was a staggering game. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I felt like a lot of the other people. And I remember going into that game, you're trying to pick how it's going to go, and both teams are so good and everything, and it occurred to me that one of them was a really good team, and I was worried that one of them was a really good collection of parts. And that turned out to be exactly what it was, with Tampa Bay being the collection of parts. And it's like that game, it felt like if you were to play a 7-game series or even one game, would you rather have the world champion Los Angeles Lakers, the regular roster, or would you rather have the Eastern All-Star team with Giannis and everybody who goes with it? I think you'd rather have the Lakers because they're a real team. They're not a collection of toys. And that's what Tampa Bay looked like to me. The play that killed me that night was that really bad-looking interception on the far side to Antonio Brown, where they were not in the same chapter of the same book of the same volume, Encyclopedia Britannica. Antonio Brown pulled up short, Brady threw long. And again, I'm kind of thinking, what is he doing out there? They needed him on that team, and I know it was we're gonna take it to the next level, and we're gonna win a Super Bowl with this move, and that's the move. And I don't know. You had really good receivers, and you bring in a really mercurial at best guy, and now it's hurting the football. I have a friend with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Rich, that I text with sometimes, pretty high up guy, and I remember a couple of weekends ago, when it happened. It happened on Saturday night, I think, when they got Antonio and it was happening. I text him, I go, "Are you guys really bleeping getting Antonio Brown?" And all he texted back was a GIF, and it was a GIF of a poker player pushing a giant stack of chips right to the middle of the table.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, it's a huge gamble, and I did not like what I saw. Never mind the off-the-field stuff, which is unsavory to say the lightest. The on-field was off, too. And if Brady's going to sit there and force it to the guy who stays in his house all the time, I don't know. Throw it to Evans and Godwin. It was a really weird night. And that leaves me in a long-winded way to answer your question. I guess the Saints right now are the truth. Just the team that we don't know if we can trust in the playoffs. So everybody buckle up.
Yeah, I know. And Seattle's defense is on pace, to use the sports phrase, of some pretty unprecedentedly bad numbers. And we saw the Bills slice them up. Now we'll see what happens with the Rams coming off of a bye week. And, you know, I just don't want to sleep on Green Bay. I just don't want to sleep on them because, again, just because there's only 3 players on their team that fantasy owners have does not mean they're not a Super Bowl contender. You know, you're going to throw Robert,
funny.
don't call me Tanya.
It's the greatest
Tunyon
compliment
I mean, seriously.
to those guys. Be like, you know, I'm looking at your team and you're wildly flawed. I don't mean just the baseball card has a little bit of the corner that's pulled back. Like the thing is messed up. It's not even close to a perfect team.
Right.
But it still feels like a Honus Wagner, like Aaron Rodgers. It still feels that good. Heavily flawed team. I look at them. I think we're inevitably going to see, Rich, for the 9th time in their careers, Russell Wilson versus Aaron Rodgers, because I feel like they're the same team. Prolific quarterbacks, wildly flawed teams that I don't think are good enough to win a Super Bowl, but are going to run into each other for the 9th time, and they're 4-4, and the home team always wins. So I love those teams too, but as in the same breath that you say I love Green Bay, and I do too, I didn't even recognize them against Tampa, who I didn't even recognize against New Orleans. The snake is eating its tail.
I know. It's Saints beat Bucks, who beat Packers, who, and it just goes on and on and on.
And they were in the movie with Kevin Bacon. It's crazy.
They were, in fact, just a couple of steps removed from from all sorts of Footloose and all that stuff. Yeah. And then there's the Monday Nighter, where there's a 3-5 team with a lot better and more going for it than the 5-4 team. And I mean, that's a fact. That's a fact. And it feels like the Bears are the ones whose season is basically over and they're playing out a string, and they're the ones who are a game and a half in front of the Vikings because of the way that they've looked the last couple of weeks, respectively, these two teams. I don't mean to keep throwing it on you, but I know you're a Bears guy. Do you think we're going to reach the point this Monday, maybe, of lamenting the fact that Trubisky's not healthy enough to be an option? That we finally have reached that part of the 2020 season?
I think what you're looking for the Bears is you're just craving, you're just thirsting for rock bottom so we can start to rebuild, which is why I welcome the question. I'm glad you brought it up. I did kind of a strange experiment on Sunday. I was watching the game on my couch, and I knew it was going to be miserable. I was under no delusion that all of a sudden they're going to start pulling touchdowns out of their backside. I wrote down as the game was happening what the Bears' drives were to start the game. Rich, I'm not making this up. This is the Chicago Bear offense through 3 quarters against the Tennessee Titans defense, which has been lit up. This is how the drives went, as followed. Turnover on downs. Punt. 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 Halftime. Punt. Fumble, which was returned for a touchdown by the defense. That's the 3 quarters. That's what we're at. And now we're just going to sit in it. Because Monday night you play the Vikings on national television. You just sit in it, and everyone's going to watch. It's like peeing in the bathtub. There's nowhere you're going to sit in it and enjoy it, and that's your mess that you made. And now Dalvin Cook's going to run for another 200 yards. So I think we're at the rock bottom. I think we made it there. It's a hell of a season, Rich.
And yet, if you want to talk rock bottom, Kyle, not to go toe-to-toe with you here, Rock bottom to me would to be up by 10 on your hated rivals in division, in front of a Monday Night Football audience.
Yeah.
Getting set to shock them by handing them their 5th consecutive loss for the first time since the mid-'90s, and then only possessed the ball for 84 seconds throughout a fourth quarter in which your 4 plays that you do have is an interception on the first play, and then a dump off over the middle to your running back to keep the clock rolling a little bit to make sure the other team doesn't just get the ball right back. But then you do give him the ball right back by taking a sack and then snapping the ball with 18 seconds left on the play clock, and then losing. That to go to 0-9, I'd say that's rock bottom. That's what I would go with.
It's such a weird fever dream watching that team. It's Joe Flacco throwing passes to Frank Gore. It's like a Jets Comic-Con where everyone's dressed up in their Jets costumes but not uniforms, and it really did happen. I was cracking up the other day, Rich. I want to hear your thoughts on this. I'm channel surfing, and I don't get to see it much anymore. I used to watch it a lot when I was young. But I stumbled upon the last couple of minutes of PTI, and they were lamenting, Tony and Mike, about the Jets. And they were saying that the only Jets highlight in history, in the entire history of the organization, is Joe Namath with the finger point as he runs off. That's the only one. And I said, that can't possibly be true. Is that the only one?
Well, I mean, it's the only one in which they won the Super Bowl. I mean, come on now.
But is there another highlight, a great, iconic, I guess Can't Wait from Bart Scott is pretty good after beating the Patriots.
Yeah.
But that was the divisional round.
I mean, and
Kyle, lest you forget the butt fumble, man.
Oh,
yeah, well, that's what I mean. That's what
I mean, you could make a list of the famous highlight moments of the Jets, and then a list of the famous highlight in quote moments for the Jets that would have the butt fumble and obviously the fake spike for Marino, and we could go on. It's probably a longer list. It is, but I don't know why I need to be kicked in the teeth that way too. Certainly I
was trying to search for solutions. I can't find any.
But especially, and I worked myself up yesterday. I frequently do when it comes to the subject of this team, that Steve Young was the latest to say to Trevor Lawrence, you don't want to go to the Jets. And, and as I pointed out yesterday, I mean, like, Trevor Lawrence could be Broadway Trevor by going to New York. And I know that they've broken Sam Darnold, but they would absolutely get the cream of the crop coach who wouldn't want to be attached to Trevor Lawrence's hip right off the get-go in New York City, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to do that right now in a division that is habitually, even though it does appear to be better, but habitually so low that Tom Brady in year 20 gets swept by a division opponent for the first time in his career.
Yes.
So, who wouldn't do that? Especially since, too, if you want to talk about marketing, you take a solid receiver, slot receiver, and he does a single salsa dance, and he still has a career 10 years after playing. I mean, let's just talk about what New York City really is. I don't know. I mean, just
Michael Strahan, larger than life.
Justin Tuck sold $5 footlongs for a decade, man. I mean, so that might have been Strahan too. So, all right. Before I let you go, Kyle, you've got Joel McHale, right? That's who's your guest
I know
this
he's
week?
a friend of yours as well. He did an unbelievable job on 10 questions. Had an historic final score, and we got into talking about hosting. Rich, you would love it. And he's had so many different types of jobs, and I tried to ask him, like, what was the most challenging or what was the most exhilarating? He tells this story of hosting the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and oh my goodness, now he got to do it second term Obama, so there's no election looming. Everyone's just relaxed, but he gets up in that room. And there's a million politicians, a million powerful people. This was a few years ago. So Chris Christie jokes were big at the time. Jessica Simpson was there, and he did a 20-minute roast of everybody in the room. The way he tells the story about, is the script run by the White House? Do they look at it? Do they cross things out? Absolutely amazing. I was dying at the end of it. He has to follow the president, too. So Joel, you've had him on. Like, he is razor sharp. The way he tells the story and the way he gets into all of this stories of his career. It was one of the best ones we've ever done.
That's great. 10 Questions with Kyle Brandt podcast available, again, in the Ringer and Spotify. Previous guests to check out, Adam Devine, Patton Oswalt, Tim Robbins, obviously so much to talk about with him. And again, it's every Wednesday a new episode drops, as the kids would say. Before I do let you go, I'd love to have you help us here at the show. Last week, we did a segment based on The Waterboy being in theaters 22 years prior. It was an anniversary of The Waterboy. which NFL player deserved first overall pick status, and we chose fictional NFL player. We chose Bobby Boucher, Johnny Utah, Willie Beeman, and Forrest Gump. And Daniel Jeremiah called in. I don't know if you saw it, but he stuck the landing with. He had scouting reports on all four of the guys. It was amazing.
It was a glistening appearance by DJ. I believe he said that Boucher plays better than he measures, or bigger than he weighs, and it was as if he was breaking down any prospect you've ever heard coming out, from Andy Katzenmoyer to Luke Kuechly. It was so good and such a great idea. And he was right, by the way. I was fascinated by Boucher's immeasurables. Boucher probably better in the 70s era, where they allowed more contact. There was still the wedge-busting factor on special teams. Now, probably a lot of personal fouls. But I loved DJ's breakdown, and I'm Team Boucher as well.
Right, and one of the red flags for Forrest Gump is he was just a straight line runner. He had problems. It was just fantastic. So we're thinking just
Injury
like
concerns on Utah, of course. It was really, really good. Not as good as something else, though, Rich, and I would be loath if I did not bring this up.
Sure.
And I made sure that when I called in today, I wanted to say something about this.
Okay.
Please allow me to say how happy, impressed, and, if I may, proud I was of you on Sunday during game day morning, when you clearly broke free from your planned rundown and your format for the show that morning and gave that incredible speech about Alex Trebek, who had just passed, I'm sure, in the middle of the show. I was standing applauding.
Oh, thanks,
man. So good, and I'm so glad you did that.
Oh, thanks, Kyle. I appreciate that. I mean, the guy's a television icon, a broadcasting legend, and obviously, merited, even on a football show, pausing and paying respects. And for me personally, I mean, he's one of the all-time greats. I actually wrote down in my notes the greatest of all time, and then I thought there's Bob Barker, who's still alive as well. And Alex Trebek and Bob Barker are truly two of the greatest broadcasters of all time. So I definitely wanted to say that. And I appreciate you saying that. The reason why I brought all of this up is we're thinking of recycling this idea, as we always do in this business that we are in, where we come up with content every day.
Sure.
Before I let you go, we want to do it because the NBA draft's next week. We want to come up with 4 fictional movie basketball characters.
Okay.
And the problem is, though, unlike football characters, basketball characters are mostly played by actual basketball players in movies.
Yes.
So we're not going to come up with a list of players as who's worthy of being drafted as a lottery pick. And the choices are essentially Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway, and Ray Allen. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to do that. So we've come up with a handful of them. Wondering if there's any that we're missing.
I'd love to hear what you got.
We've decided on Jackie Moon makes the cut.
Yeah, Jackie Moon. Yeah.
Jackie Moon makes the cut.
Okay.
Billy Hoyle.
Billy Hoyle makes the cut.
Have to have Hoyle.
Yeah. We're thinking about Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf making the cut.
Yeah.
Air Bud, I like.
Yeah, I don't know if we can go. I don't know if we can.
All right, now,
Jimmy Chitwood, maybe.
Are we talking about Scott Howard in Teen Wolf? Or are we talking about the Wolf?
I think we're talking about the Wolf.
We're talking about the Wolf.
Okay.
Talking about
the actual Wolf.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
If you're talking about the Wolf, I have some takes on that, and I've watched the game tape exhaustively. The Wolf, one of the more overrated players, and I'll tell you why. It's purely a sort of a Russell Westbrookian explosion to the basket. We know he doesn't pass or share the ball or make anybody better, but we never get to see the Wolf hit a shot from anywhere outside the paint. I don't think the Wolf can shoot. So if he's going to line up ever against the defensive stopper in the Bruce Bowen or Raja Bell mold, I think the Wolf could really be a liability on the team. I don't think the Wolf has a shot.
The Wolf is like Ben Simmons. He can't shoot.
Yes, I think they're just backing off the Wolf, daring at him to shoot, making fun of him, cracking jokes at Booth to incite his rage, which he also has. And we saw it at the bowling alley as a temper, as off the court concerns for the Wolf. And I don't think he has the mid-range or deep jumper.
So maybe that's a problem. We can't even consider him. Because again,
Will Smith and Fresh Prince.
We're
just trying to throw names
We're
out
thinking
there.
of throwing this in front of Billis next week. I got to call him to check it out.
Well, he's the guy. But yeah, Air Bud, sure. Like Mike, Jimmy Chitwood, of course.
Like
legend.
Mike. Wait a minute. Lil Bow Wow from Like Mike.
Yeah.
With the shoes, obviously, right?
Yes, with the magic shoes.
With the magic
Marvin the
shoes.
Martian had some key buckets in the game against the Monstars. There's lots of potential for bench, but for your starters, you might want to think like Mike.
Does Jimmy Chitwood make it? I know he's a high school player, and obviously he was the best player on Hickory, but but I don't think he probably had much of a college career. You know,
no, pure shooter. Also, coachability concerns.
Desire
in his own shot more than he listens to his coach sometimes. Yeah. So I'm a little worried about that. But I mean, listen, if you can work on him, if you mold him, if you have an educator as your head coach, because that's the next question, Rich. Who's gonna coach this team?
Good question.
All right. So do you have the Gene Hackman character? I don't know. Is it Bill Murray? It's Samuel L. Jackson?
Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg, of course.
Yeah. Juana Man?
Yeah.
Do we have Juana Man? Do we go with Juana?
Oh, how about no? Hold on. What about Whoopi played a coach, right? Was that Eddie?
Eddie.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Whoopi will get those guys in line.
I think we're around the edges here. We're workshopping it, but Jackie Moon is in and Billy Hoyle's in. Correct? Have we agreed on that?
Those two are in.
All right. We got 2 more spots for our.
Isn't Dean not on the team and Billy Hoyle is? Isn't he more talented?
That's not a bad one.
I mean, ball handler, explosive. You know, he's a little talk the talk. I'd almost rather work with Dean's talent than Hoyle because, as we know, Hoyle, can't jump. It's literally the name of the movie.
That gets ruined for me because in real life, Wesley Snipes, terrible basketball player.
Is that right?
Okay. Well,
I didn't know that.
The reality of this is what's key.
Yeah, we need to suspend our disbelief.
Sorry.
Okay?
In real life, I don't think the Air Bud dog can take the basketball in its mouth and shoot. And Michael J. Fox is not
actually a werewolf.
Yeah.
Thank you for the call, Kyle. We appreciate it as always. You take care, brother.
Rich. Thanks, man.
Yeah, you got it. It's Kyle Brandt at Kyle Brandt on Twitter. Check him out. Good Morning Football every day, 7 a.m. And then, of course, every Wednesday, the latest episode of 10 Questions with Kyle Brandt. Joel McHale is his guest.